So, the market's not doing so great today. It's down somewhere between 2 and 4%, depending on which one of the indices you're looking at. Dow's down 2%, Nasdaq's down 4%, S&P's in the middle. And that's not a good day, definitely in the red. But this isn't the apocalypse you were promised now, was it? I mean, just up until about noon yesterday, the predictions of apocalypse were dominating the airwaves. It's bad, and it's only getting worse. That's it. He's crashed the economy. The only question is, did he do it on purpose, or did he do it because he's so damn incompetent? And that's what you were told. And then when the pause happened yesterday, the market stopped, looked around. Okay, well, if that's the rest of the bad news, then we can go ahead and start being a little more optimistic. So then it skyrockets yesterday, with the kids jingle belling, and things turned on a dime. But the problem that some of these people have is we have access to a computer. We're recording things that you were saying just until like lunchtime yesterday. And so it's delicious to go back and see like the predictions. This is going to be a calamity. It's going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be apocalyptic, according to James Carville. Is this apocalyptic? No, not hardly. We do have some updates, though, and it's not necessarily like we have breaking news story, but we have updates on stories that have been going on this whole time. Number one, the next Doge update for today is Elon and his team of engineers have been going through the unemployment system, and they say at a cabinet meeting today, Elon was there for some reason, but they were taking questions. Trump threw it to Elon to update on what Doge is up to. They found $150 billion worth of waste.
Well, thanks to your fantastic leadership, this amazing cabinet, and the very talented Doge team, I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion. And and some of it is just absurd. Like people getting unemployment insurance who haven't been born yet. I mean, I think anyone can appreciate come on. That's just crazy.
All right. So that's kind of good news. I mean, I'm glad they caught it, but we had $150 billion just in the unemployment insurance, just going out the window.
$1 billion, million, $400 trillion, $600 billion.
So you cut $150 billion there. You cut $150 billion from fraudulent Social Security payments. You cut another $150 billion from fraudulent Medicare payments. Pretty soon, we're starting to talk about some real money here. Patriotic Front over here on X. He comments, "I made a fat bag off of yesterday's dip. Thank you, Trump." You mean yesterday's like jump back up because it was kind of a dip today. But there's for the people who didn't panic. And they didn't listen to the media, and they didn't care about the dip. They're being made whole right now. It's almost halfway made up, even with today's drop. You've already gained back about half of what you dropped in just the last couple weeks here. So things are looking better. Not great, not perfect. We still have one big issue out there in the tariff tit for tat. That's China. So China now has an even worse situation. And I think the tariffs went up again just a few percent. He's just going to keep ratcheting them up. You have Kevin O'Leary here from Shark Tank telling Fox News that he would recommend China gets a tariff of up to 400%. And in this situation, it's great to see how people are taking advantage of how the internet provides you the things that people were saying about tariffs last year, the thing people were saying, these same people were saying about tariffs 20 years ago and 30 years ago. And if it doesn't match up today, it discredits a lot of the criticism that Trump's getting right now. And the media is not doing it. You're doing it. I don't know if you realize how powerful you are. Now, not you as an individual, but the whole collective. Every time I can get a few of y'all to share something out. I know you only have a few hundred, maybe a few thousand followers, but that's the nature of something going viral. Is just regular people sharing it out over 1 million times is more powerful than anything can come off of CNN. And so I see you doing that. I see my friends spreading around to me, hey, did you see this? And not just because I work in the radio, I see y'all sending it to each other. I see my wife sending it to her friends. Hey, check out what Chuck Schumer was saying about the Chinese trade imbalance a few years ago. We're getting really good at this. And so a lot of this is based on how great the common American public is adapting to the technology at our hands and really breaking through the veil that the media has been putting up and getting to the truth. This is Schumer saying the same thing that Elon said.
I thank the gentleman, salute him for his work on this, rise in support of the amendment. First of all, Social Security card is used from one end of America to the other as an identification card right now. Who are we kidding? If you want to pass a law and says it shouldn't be, I would ask the chairman and the distinguished minority member of the Social Security committee to pass that law, but let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
Oh,
Gentleman's time has expired.
That was 1996. Who are you, Elon Musk? Now someone needs to go key his car. Did you hear what he said? That's the thing that literally Nazis say. The pollster guy for CNN, his name's Harry Enton. He was tasked with going out and finding the answer to these questions. And check out his report from last night on CNN's Primetime. Harry Enton on Trump's polls.
Yeah, exactly right. I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s.
How are people reacting to and feel about Trump's approach?
I think the American people recognize what he's doing here is completely different. We're talking, get this, 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents, compared to only 14% who believe it is in line with precedent. And we're talking about at least 79% of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So again, you can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently.
Completely differently. Clearly they agree, but take it a step further? Do the people think he's taken too much power?
Well, 47% say too much, but then you get 36% who say the right amount. Then you get 17% who say too little. So you're essentially dealing with a majority of the American public, 53%, who do not say that Trump has too much power. They either says he has too little power or the right amount of power. So the idea, that argument that Donald Trump is, quote unquote, a king, that I don't think holds with the American people. It does hold maybe with 47%, but with the majority of folk, they believe Donald Trump's doing something completely differently, and they don't believe he has too much power, and the executive orders he signed certainly suggest he's no lame duck. He is, as I said at the beginning, a soaring eagle.
All right, so ask yourself the question that I'm asking my next guest, Connor Vasile. Do you think he's wielding too much power? And I got to admit, Connor, I'm kind of surprised by these poll numbers because the majority of people aren't hearing this from the news and the people on TV. This shows me people are going around the legacy media these days.
Most definitely, sir. I mean, we just see in the past years alone, the skepticism towards legacy media and these traditional media outlets have been soaring. So in that case, I'm actually not surprised that people aren't really in tune with this sort of topic. However, While it is good that we're seeing some waves being done in this with this new government, with this administration, I would like to posit, and I do not want to be a Debbie Downey here, sorry, but from the aspect of liberty preservation, executive orders are only good if people honor it, right? If, let's say, a new administration comes in and a new president, Democrat or whomever, decides to wipe the slate clean with all those executive orders, then what's going to happen? We're back to square zero. So if we're going to see some actual benefit to the American people and our republic, we're going to need to see some actual hands-on bills getting passed at least.
Well, without bills getting passed, we have seen the border get closed. We have seen maybe people lose their job. I don't know how permanent that's going to be. I'm just really looking for the spending cuts, and they're not bragging about that in this latest spending bill that they're talking about that's going through D.C. right now. What do you know about that? I haven't got a whole lot of details on it.
I'm also in the preliminary stages of looking into this as well, but you know how government works these days. You know, it's much, much more easy to spend money than it is to save or cut down. But what we're seeing here is actually, I think, a reminder of arguably just the way politicians work. Especially with Trump. I mean, we even saw, in his first term, the amount of spending that went on there. If we're going to see some actual substantive cuts, I'm going to be a little hesitant to say we're going to see that anytime soon with him.
Well, I don't think we can get them until the end of the fiscal year because of that continuing resolution. So I think the closest time we'll have an answer to that is maybe the beginning of October. So I'm pretty pessimistic on that, but I am very pleased to see how positive the polls can be, because this is kind of a rough time to be taking the temperature on the public's like of what Trump's doing, because the market's been so haywire.
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to this notion of, you know, short-term pain, long-term reward. I know that's very hackneyed. That's a thrown around term a lot these days. But, you know, this is a really big experiment where we're playing with right now, whether this notion of tariffs can actually benefit our situation or not. And as we've seen, it's already been having an impact. The yuan in China has been suffering a little bit, especially with this tariff pause. But at the end of the day, we're going to need to see if in the long term these actually play a good part.
Agreed there. But, you know, if this momentum can continue, this is going to be good in the midterms. But I don't know. I feel like I'm getting a little ahead of myself talking about the midterms already. But, Connor, we're a year away from primaries.
Yeah. Time flies.
Right. We got the big race in here with our Attorney General announcing he's going to try and unseat an incumbent, John Cornyn, who is commonly decried as a rhino, and for good cause. There's a pretty good record of him being a little too moderate than the voting electorate reflects. But I think it would be amazing if this guy gains ground in the midterms, or even holds his place, because if he doesn't, then we're going to get a 2-year experiment and then it's all over.
Exactly. I mean, only time will tell. That would be great if he can pull that off. I think at the end of the day, what we're really seeing, especially not only in 2016, but now also this year, we are seeing people really waking up to this idea of rhino republicanism and how they only just care about brand image and how they appear to the moderate voter or the centrists. But I think we are starting to wake up as Americans and starting to realize that we can't play lukewarm anymore. We have to actually put our foot down and gamble a little bit, so to speak, in order to have some actual change in this country. And hey, short-term hurt, right? But long-term gain, we have yet to see.
Well, and I think my friends who are on both small D Democrats and small R Republicans are right to criticize their party. Republicans have done a terrible job representing what the Republican voting electorate wants. Democrat Party has been pretty god-awful representing the wishes of my Democrat friends out there. And, you know, the more they can be diminished, I think the better, Connor.
Oh, definitely, right. I mean, the Democrats right now, they're just having a really horrible time, especially with PR, and usually they're on top of that. But people have really seen, especially with this previous election, just how ruthless they can be. That being said, that doesn't mean anyone should be resting on their laurels. Republicans are really horrible at doing their job as well. Yeah. And if we're going to actually have a country that benefits literally everyone, maybe we should start doing some introspection.
Good stuff, Connor Vasile. How do we find you online?
Thank you, sir. You can find me at Twitter at Connor_Vasile. That's V as in Victor. I'm also an author. You can get my books on Amazon. The state knows best, and I'm Joe Biden.
I'm pretty excited about these executive orders signed by Trump yesterday. 7 new ones. Now, he's gotten to 111 executive orders already, but a couple of these, this almost feels too good to be true. One thing you've heard me probably gripe about a lot in the over the last months and years of the James Show is how we have all these regulations where they talk about, they're the party of choice and they're the party of freedom, and they're the party of rights, but they won't let you choose a plastic straw. They don't want you to have a shower head that actually blows water off your body instead of slowly trickles on you. They want to control how much water is in each flush of your toilet. Don't tell me you're the pro-choice people when I can't even pick my own toilet. But the first executive order I'm going to review today, oh my God, it actually addresses that. Number 1. Overregulation chokes the American economy and stifles personal freedom. A small but meaningful example is the Obama-Biden war on showers. Twice in the last 12 years, those administrations promulgated multi-thousand-word regulations defining the word showerhead. I hereby direct a notice rescinding energy conservation program. Good. You've probably asked yourself, I've asked myself, whenever I go to work and I'm at a restaurant or a concert venue and I hit the toilet, that thing blasts out like a fire hose. When I go home, it's just gentle. It's almost like a jacuzzi swirl down. It's like lame and weak and doesn't make the noise. Why can't I get the ones that at work? Why can't I get these power blasters? Well, there's Al Gore standing in your way. Gotta save the environment. Gotta save all the fresh water. Gotta conserve. Stop it. Look, if I want to blast my bodily waste into the sewer as hard as I want to, I should be able to. This is a free country. If I want to get a shower head that blasts the top layer of skin off it so hard, I should have the right to try that. So hopefully that's a step in the right direction. Does that actually change anything? Can we actually get a shower head? Because I remember I'd never actually seen like a big, bad, powerful shower head, because where I grew up, city kids had real water. Out in the country, you're not hooked up to a water system. So you drill a big well and then some machine pumps it and filters it for you. And so our water pressure was always low. It always tasted kind of funky, like you were licking the counter in the kitchen. And, it was all right. It was normal to me. But when I got to college, not only did they have like the old water system, I guess they had grandfathered in the old shower heads, because I turned that thing off and I turned it on all the way and I blew myself to the back of the shower. I thought that was great. I was like, oh my God, who installed the fire hose? I'd never seen a real shower. And I don't think I've seen a real one since. Every one since then has been disappointing. They must have passed that first shower head rule with regulating the water flow in the 90s or something. But number 2, reforming foreign defense sales. This was the second executive order. It streamlines U.S. defense sales, boosts transparency, cuts red tape, support allies, strengthens the defense industry through faster, more efficient arms transfer process. I will admit, I don't know what any of that means. Very vague, could mean anything. Sounds good. Number 3, reducing anti-competitive regulations. Ooh, that sounds good. What does it say in the executive order? It's real short. I'll read it to you. Federal regulations should not predetermine economic winners and losers, yet some regulations operate to exclude new market entrants. Almost all of them do. This order instructs department heads to curate a list of regulations that create monopolies and reduce competition within 70 days. Okay, so this is an order to go find out something else, and we'll see if anything happens with that. But I like the spirit behind that one. Number 4, cutting more regulations. Okay, that sounds positive too. It's another short one, so I can read it to you. This order directs certain agencies to incorporate a sunset provision into their regulations governing energy production to the extent permitted by law, thus compelling those agencies to re-examine their regulations periodically to ensure those rules serve the public good. A regulation that expires as a result of this order shall count toward the 10-for-1 regulatory requirement. I love that. Every law should have a sunset on it. The income tax should have a sunset provision on it. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. There's no reason why we all have to live by the debt that was thrown on us from horrible decisions made from people who aren't even alive anymore. So some people in the 30s and 40s thought it'd be a good idea to come up with Social Security, and then in the 60s, let's do Medicare and Medicaid. And now we're all saddled with that debt. I got to pay for everyone's schooling. I got to pay for everyone's medical care. I got to pay for when they're unemployed for a few months and they're trying to get back on their feet. I got to pay for them to get on a government-paid choo-choo train if they want to go to downtown Dallas. When does it end? Next regulation, we're on number 5 of 7, rebuilding maritime industries. This is to prevent cargo carriers from circumventing the harbor maintenance fee. I have no idea what any of this means. Neither do you, so we will skip this. We're really far from an ocean, so that doesn't apply to us. Modernizing defense acquisitions. Sounds just like the other one. The United States will rapidly reform our antiquated defense acquisition process. So, I don't know. They're actually probably going to use computers that have color screens now. But this is a good one. This last one. Number 7. Terminate security clearances. Lawyers and law firms that engage in activities detrimental to critical American interests should not have access to our nation's secrets, nor should their conduct be subsidized by federal taxpayer funds or contracts. The Attorney General shall immediately take steps consistent with applicable law to suspend any active security clearance held by individuals at Sussman, pending a review of whether such clearances are consistent with the national interest. Now, that sounds like he has some sort of personal beef, but it may be grounded in like a legitimate reason. But I love the idea of you should automatically have your security clearance terminated whenever you leave D.C., like all of these guys. And anyone who signed the 51 former intelligence officials who said the Biden laptop was hallmark Russian disinformation. Do you know a lot of those people still have security clearance? They don't work there. They're out there actively lying, and they're using their title and their experience as some sort of credibility metric in the media. And they're sort of using it against you. But we have way too many people with security clearance. How many people do you think have access to things that are considered classified in the federal government? It's like 6 million people. It doesn't even mean anything. So yeah, cut all that off. Well, that's the update on the executive orders. Donald Kimball's back on. Donald Kimball, welcome back to the James Show. But the only country of note that still has tariffs slapped on it is China. Was that the plan all along, Donald?
It's difficult to say. It's easy to look back and think, yeah, that was the plan all along. But in reality, it sounds more like Trump did not like the way the markets were reacting and decided that maybe this would be the right pivot. It's hard to know. It's hard to know the motives. But it is important to note that there are still any tariffs that were, 10% or lower are still in effect around the globe. And these are temporary relief, right? So the 90-day pause does mean they could come back. And he had previously said that they were going to reject some of the offers to drop all tariffs from like Vietnam, for instance. So it's difficult to see what the strategy is. Perhaps there is a grand strategy. It feels a little bit more reactionary and kind of flying by the seat of your pants a little bit more maybe than you'd like to admit. But for what it's worth, I'm glad that the tariffs do seem to at least temporarily be dropping for the most part.
Well, okay, judge my theory here. I think that some of these countries, the 75 or so that have reached out and got their tariffs paused, some of those guys are going to give a really good deal on a new set of trade rules. Some of them are going to try and play hardball, and there's going to be a small group out of them that might actually have tariffs return after this 90-day pause, only to do it all again. But the more countries that fall off and come up with a more equitable trade deal, the better options we have here stateside to find alternative sources for where we get our wood or our aluminum or our steel or our manufactured goods or our other inputs. And so I think this will slowly start to work itself out. But we're not out of the woods yet. I think in 90 days, some of these tariffs are going to return.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. It's difficult to say. Of course, I'm not the one who won all of the votes and is sitting in the Oval Office, so it's easy to judge without having done the work myself. But I can't help but think it might have been a little bit easier, perhaps, to start threatening tariffs on the countries. Maybe slap the major tariff on China and say, we're willing to do this. We're not, we're playing hardball here. Come to the negotiating table. And then working with allies a little bit more directly that way, rather than tariffing first, asking questions later. Again, I guess it's one of those things where it's easy to say from my position because I'm not the one who got elected. So maybe there is a grand strategy. I just know personally I prefer the less tariff route that we can get If we can get to a place where there are fewer tariffs because of the threat of tariffs, then that's a win-win in the end for me, I suppose.
Well, I also noticed there's a unique challenge in the China situation in that they've signed previous trade agreements and then not followed the rules at all. Like when they got into the World Trade Organization, they were supposed to start honoring our intellectual property and, not be bootlegging our movies and stealing our software and retooling all our the other things that they can reverse engineer off of us. And they haven't lived up to any of that.
Well, and it brings up an interesting point, which is to say that, yes, these tariffs could hurt them in major ways, but a lot of Chinese companies will probably go that exact same route when it comes to these tariffs and disguise their goods as being manufactured from places like Vietnam or others. And so, when it comes to the integrity of the tariffs, what probably will end up happening is that honest companies in China are punished, and you incentivize more of that kind of bootlegging behavior or deceptive behavior of disguising your goods as others. I mean, there was a story not that long ago about, I think it was Apple shipping out thousands of their iPhones out of India to avoid these tariffs on a commercial flight. So companies are going to try to find ways to get around these. The countries themselves, Chinese countries, will probably try to engage in a little bit of deceptive behavior. So whether or not these tariffs punish the right people is another question to be asking.
So I think you're very astute to point out the fact that the collapsing market may have influenced Donald Trump's hand because contrary, if the market keeps going up and returns to where it was, or at least it looks a little more healthy than it did at the beginning of this week, I think the incentive for him to reinstate some of the tariffs and play hardball again, it reemerges.
It does, but the panic and the reaction cannot be overstated, and that might leave a bad taste in his mouth. Again, I'm kind of making my own assessment here, but Trump does strike me as someone who very much plays into how people perceive him, in that he wants to come across as a strong leader. He wants to come across as someone who's good for the market, good for the economy, and so. The reaction that happened in just those 2 days might have been enough of a deterrent for him to, if he's going to reengage with these tariffs, he might do it in a little bit more of a strategic way or a little bit more of a long-term manner so that there isn't that kind of shock panic doctrine. In Japan, for instance, when markets move too much, they pull the plug. And so there's actually like a period where people cannot make trades in order to stop.
They do the emergency brake. We have that. We have those too. We just don't need to use them as often as Japan does.
Exactly, yeah. And I just think that Trump might try to play to a scenario where it's not even close to that in the future, because he doesn't probably want the negative reaction.
Well, and if you extrapolate that out, that means by the time the midterms roll around, Donald Trump's going to be an absolute pudding when it comes to playing hardball.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, he's got the midterms to think about as well. And obviously, he wants part of his legacy a big win. It probably doesn't look good to have a sweeping loss in the congressional seats when you're back in office.
All right, fun stuff. Donald Kimball, where do they find you online?
Yeah, follow me on X at Kimball Donald or KimballDonald.com. Thanks so much for having me.